My name is Megan Mixon, and today we will be going over the Arkansas Code of Ethics. What are the Code of Ethics? It's a list of minimum standards that educators are to follow to remain in good standing and reputation with their students, coworkers, administration, parents, the general public, anyone that they are to come into contact with. This is just a minimum list of things to do to ensure that no boundaries are being crossed. Standard number 1 states that an educator maintains a professional relationship with each student, both in and outside of the classroom. My takeaway from this is that any contact with a student, whether it is on or off of the campus, on social media, anytime you have contact with a student, it should be handled as if that contact or that communication were being recorded for a judge and a jury. You want to make sure that you're staying professional, that anything that you wouldn't say or do, or you wouldn't act a certain way for it to be on display for all to see, you shouldn't do in private either. It is important for teachers to support their students and attend their functions. I truly feel that in order to make connections on a personal level, that we need to be there for our students, even in extracurricular activities and so on. But we need to make sure that even at those functions, the relationships remain professional at all times. Standard number 2 states that an educator maintains a competence regarding his or her professional practice, inclusive of professional and ethical behavior, skills, knowledge, dispositions, and responsibilities relating to his or her organizational position. My takeaway on this one is that as educators, we should always try to aim to better ourselves, to be the best version of us. For ourselves, but also for our students. Professional development and continual learning is imperative. One of my favorite sayings that I've kind of stuck by is that in order to teach, you first have to learn. And then in order to learn, you have to be taught. So I feel like as educators, that is something that we should strive to be doing is that continual learning and that continual growth. Educators should always follow an IEP plan to its fullest extent and provide assistance and a fair opportunity to each student. An IEP is not just something that we keep in a folder somewhere. This is something that we have to apply. It is our responsibility to make sure that that student is receiving all of the help that they are entitled to, first of all, but they deserve as well. Standard number 3 states that an educator honestly fulfills reporting obligations associated with professional practices. Educators are mandated reporters, and they should report any known or even suspected abuse at the first observation. I know a lot of times people are a little bit more hesitant, and they say, well, I think this is what I'm seeing, or I might be seeing this. When in doubt, it's very important that we go ahead and make notes of this. That way you can have an idea of what you need to start reporting. Educators must keep clear and concise records of grades and student progress. It is our reporting obligation to make sure that we are recording their grades, not just giving a test just to give it and saying, okay, they did well or they didn't do well, but it's important that we record all of their progress and grades as well. Standard number 4 says an educator entrusted with public funds and property, including school-sponsored activity funds, honors that trust with honest, responsible stewardship. My takeaway is that educators should use funds solely as they have been allocated and maintain clear records of the use of those funds. It's very important that you keep receipts to cover yourself. It's important that you keep a record of what was spent, where, when, so that nothing can be said, that you have proof of what you spent that on, and that it was solely for the betterment of teaching, the classroom, the education, for all involved. All monies should be handled with integrity. Integrity is a big word. We'll come across it in a little bit. It's something that I hold near and dear to. Should be handled with integrity and used for the intended purposes. Standard number 5 states that an educator maintains integrity regarding the acceptance of gratuity, gifts, compensation, or favors that might impair or appear to influence the professional decisions or actions, and shall refrain from using the educator's position for personal gain. Teachers should be mindful at all times of the gifts that they are presented from students and only accept well-intended items that are appropriate to accept. For example, here, teachers should not accept a monetary donation from the parent of a sports member. This is just an example, in order to forge grades. We all know that if you are in sports, you've got to maintain a certain GPA. And I think this is a fairly common example that we have all either thought of or heard of in the past. That sometimes parents might say, hey, like my son is an up and coming star in football. He really needs to stay in, but this grade is just below what he needs. Is there any way that you can tweak this up a little bit? That is not a well-intended gift, and it's not appropriate. Teachers are allowed to accept small tokens of appreciation, such as meal cards, handmade items, etc. The generic teacher appreciation gifts, if you will, as long as you know that they are coming from a well-intended heart in a good place. Sorry, if I can get it to click. Standard number 6 says an educator keeps in confidence secure standardized test materials and results and maintains the integrity regarding test administration procedures. All test results should be stored in a secure location, not to be shared with any other students or even family members. Standardized test material must be kept confidential. Leaving materials unattended can lead to the sharing of test questions, grade sharing, or even shaming, and breaching confidentiality. Standard number 7 says an educator maintains the confidentiality of information about students and colleagues obtained in the course of the educator's professional services that is protected under state law or regulations, federal law or regulations, or the written policies of the educator's school district, unless disclosure serves a professional purpose as allowed or required by law or regulations. My takeaway is that educators should protect both the students and their coworkers and yourself, should have added that in there, to the highest degree. Some information about students must be shared among a team, but should not be discussed outside of the hand-selected team for that particular student. For example, students with an IEP. You've got to communicate with the team that is over their care, that is looking over their education, their parents, any of the specialized services. You've got to communicate with that. But just a random teacher down the hall that has something to say, you should not engage in that or especially start up that conversation. Educators should be mindful not to share information regarding coworkers with students or their families. In school, you tend to become a family, and so I might know something about my coworker that they have either told me in confidence or just told me in passing, but it's not always my place to relay that information to another student. If they're going through financial struggles, if they're in the middle of a divorce, if they have a baby on the way and they're just not ready to share that yet, we've got to be mindful to keep the information that we're given without breaching that. Standard number 8 says an educator, while on school premises or at school-sponsored activities involving students, refrain from using, possessing, and or being under the influence of alcohol or unauthorized drugs and substances, and or possessing items prohibited by law, or possessing or using tobacco or tobacco-related products, e-cigarettes, e-liquid, or vapor products, or abusing or misusing the prescription medications or other authorized substances as evidenced by impairment. Educators should refrain from partaking in any potentially harmful substances or actions, especially in the presence of students. Partaking in such activities can obscure the respect that the student has for the teacher already, as well as it can ruin their reputation. If this is done in front of students, students are going to talk. They're going to take this to their parents. They're going to take it into the community, and that can very easily ruin the reputation of an educator. And teachers should always strive to be the good role model for the students that look up to them. The question is, how will code of ethics dictate how I will perform my teaching duties? This code encourages me to continue to live a life of integrity. Integrity, there's that word. And be who my students both need and want me to be. I'll be sure that everything I do in the classroom and on campus is a direct reflection of the education that they are receiving. I want my life to show, without words even being spoken, and in integrity, whether I'm doing it in front of everybody or in front of nobody. I want what I do and what I say to be a reflection of the true love and the heart that I put into my teaching and into educating the future leaders of this world. How can you be sure that you are abiding by the code of ethics? As previously stated, my integrity will hold me to these standards. Additionally, I can ensure that I will abide by these standards by familiarizing myself with them on a deeper level. I can make sure that I know these front, back, inside, out. I can quote them off the top of my hat, just to make sure that I know them. What you know is ingrained in you, and that's what you do. And so I can familiarize myself with them, as well as keeping them posted in my classroom as a daily reminder.